Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. Yeah, so I'm John Norgrove. I'm here with my wife, Julie Norgrove, and we're here to talk about some witchy stuff, do witchy things, and otherwisely fight against the assholes who want to make it, like, worse for no reason at all.
Or a variety of reasons.
For a variety of reasons, yeah. So, before we get started today, we're going to give a shout out to our patrons, which I didn't look up, but thank you for being a patron. I'll look you up in the middle of the thing.
Thank you to Alan, Miranda, Helena, Mackenzie, and Alexa. We appreciate you. You help us do what we do a little bit better every time.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do the thing that we're literally always talking about. And if you are listening to this on a podcast, your podcast network of choice, leave us a review. That's how we know that you guys are listening, because
otherwise we have no idea.
Podcast analytics are like looking into just like a swirling pool of water. You're not gonna get a very clear image of what's actually happening.
We would have a better idea of how many people listen to this podcast if we used a pendulum and put it over just a series of randomly drawn numbers.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Very witchy thing.
Because some things are like, there's like 10,000 listeners, and you're like, that's impossible. That doesn't even math right. Like, there's no way. And then the next thing's like, there's 8 listeners, and you're like, that sounds a little bit closer to true. Yeah. So
we know we have at least 5 of you. So
that's the important part. YouTube video, 100%. If you're listening and you would like to see our faces while we talk, YouTube. So there's that.
You can also see our seasonal altar behind us.
Yeah,
right now
we've got our Yule altar.
Our altar is up for Yule. It's got a whole bunch of little tiny towns and candles
altar
and stuff.
And pentagram, tiny trees.
Yeah.
And all that. So, But if you would like to support more of this, we have a Patreon, so you can head over there. That's where you get access to the Book of Shadows pages at the, for each one of these at the end. Yep. You get the Book of Shadows pages, which has the complete correspondence and the spells, as well as a brief of what we talked about. So I work on those. I'll get them all caught up, guys, one of these days.
Yeah, we work day jobs.
We work day jobs, and graphic design is not something that I was technically professionally trained in. It's just something that I've been forced to learn for work and for home.
And it turns out that he really enjoys it.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm all right with it, Honestly, I'm better at photo editing than graphic design, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for a lot longer. We have a Patreon. You can support us over on our Patreon. And we also have an Etsy shop called Norgrove Enterprises, where we sell just occult stuff. I just made some candles that we're inevitably going to be listing. We've got like tie-dye, and we've got like embroidery floss
and
yarn and all kind of fun stuff.
Yep.
So head over there for that. And we're at Nerd Jive everywhere. She's at Goddess Jules everywhere. And it's Nerd Jive for Patreon, and our website's nerdjive.com and all that kind of stuff. Links and everything are on nerdjive.com, so just go there.
Yeah, just go to nerdjive.com. It'll give you all the links to all of the things.
It's way easier that way. But anyway, let's get into it, guys. Today we are talking about hidden heathenry in modern holidays. So what the fuck does that mean?
Well, first of all, the heathenry part is not just heathenry, but also paganism. So sort of general paganism.
Generic heathenry. Not uppercase heathenry TM.
Yes.
To make it more confusing.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about what are primarily Americanized holidays and some of the customs in them that tie into ancient heathen or pagan practices. And in some cases where people have said they are tied to those practices, and they are literally not at all.
Yeah, made up ties.
Ties.
Hallucination ties. Happy Father's Day hallucination tie. Yeah.
I feel like that's a tie that you would be happy to get.
A hallucination tie? I mean, it depends on how I'm hallucinating. Why am I hallucinating this tie? Right? Blow to the head? Maybe not so much. Yeah. Mycology? I mean, I don't know. What's up? So...
So we're going to get started by talking about the banner, holiday season. So the holiday season is the time in
That is
between
TM.
November, yeah, it is TM,
I don't know.
and early January. And there's a whole bunch of holidays sort of mishmashed into this one.
Yeah.
But we're really going to be talking about the holidays for the moment that are after Thanksgiving. So it's sort of that general season there. And it's considered by most Western cultures to just be the holidays. So we're kind of taking that there because it's sort of like there's holidays and holy days for various religions, as well, like including Christmas.
Yeah.
But it's also sort of like a general holiday.
This
festive.
yeah, this is gonna look at like Christmas, both Christian Christmas TM, like Hallmark and Coca-Cola Christmas spend money, and like ferociously spend money, as well as like all the other like you're gonna notice a bunch of correlations that sort of coincide with other things that are both associated and historically associated with heathenry and paganry and all this kind of such, but also may or may not have like kind of just circled back around, right? There's like the obvious like, oh, you guys celebrate a thing this day? Come to find out, it's actually our thing that you're celebrating this day, right? The like standard like bait and switch, like organized religion bait and switch sort of practices, but you're also going to find things that just happen to coincide sort of logically together.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like, like, oh, why did Coca-Cola Santa Claus is, because Santa Claus is Coca-Cola red.
Yeah,
but it's like, but like also there's a bunch of importance of like red and St. Nicholas and it's sort of like, what is it? What is it? 6 of one, half dozen of the other kind of a fucking thing.
Well, and some of that like
take that in mind. And if we miss something, or you have like what about like I heard about this holiday and this, or like you guys didn't mention this, like leave it in the comments below because we all want to learn. And if there's something that we did not find, and by we I mostly mean her because I'm just here for looks, obviously, bam. But she's the one that does like the research and stuff. I just have like a weird knowledge about a bunch of movie
So
things.
obviously we can't go into everything about not only just the holiday season, but also like all of these other holidays. So if there's something that you are interested in, you want to know more about, definitely hit us up either
and we
on
do
the
have
comments on the YouTube video, on our website, or through our social media. And some of these things we are going to go into a little bit more depth in future podcast episodes as well.
Or in past podcast episodes. So like theoretically, like correlative holiday shit that connects like Samhain with Halloween, right? We went over in our Samhain episode. So like look, you can always look back in the episode list. There's a playlist on YouTube. They're all listed on my website, as well as I don't know how to use Auricular Podcast Network. So they're there. You just have to find that, I guess. Dude, I use Apple Podcasts. I use one. I've never changed it. So, whatever. Yeah, I don't know how any of that shit works.
All right, well, let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started.
So, first of all, we're going to talk about the holiday season. We're kind of talking about Yule. We're kind of talking about Christmas. We're kind of talking about, like, even people who are, like, agnostic, where they have a tree, but they are not necessarily doing stuff for Christmas. Yeah. So, decorating trees is a big thing. Obviously, if you're watching our video, you can see that we have several tiny trees behind us. We have a very small house, so we can't really have like, an actual Christmas tree. Yeah. So, every year we're like
Dad's tree. Dad's got that like 12-foot fakie.
Oh yeah,
with like the built-in lights. Dad has like it's like one of them fancy nice person lights trees. You're like, what's up, man? It's just he was like, you guys all moved out. I don't want to have to work that hard. This thing you just plug it into itself and it's like.
It looks nice even
Christmas
if you put ornaments on it.
Yeah, it's such a nice tree, dude.
So
oh my God.
There's a lot of talk out there, especially this time of year, because today is actually Thanksgiving. So we're doing this podcast a little bit late, but real life got in the way.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about Thanksgiving towards the end of this episode. So decorating trees and trees being a Yule thing is actually a very common thing that you hear around this time of year, especially stems from like pagan sort of things. So it's not just pagans. There were a lot of ancient cultures that held evergreen trees as well as evergreen plants in high regard. And that's beyond necessarily like the Christmas tree that you think of, right?
Yeah.
So
it's beyond
now,
the like traditional like Christmas trees are just stolen Yule trees.
yeah, that's
you
not
know
quite there.
Yeah, like
But
that's not
also,
really 100% of the truth.
That's also plants like ivy, which is green year round, or mistletoe, or holly.
Yeah.
And you know what? As you go further south, that even includes things like palm trees, which are generally green all year round. So really, we're talking about evergreens
places.
being plants that are evergreen, and not just what we think of as evergreen.
Yeah, not just like
being
Douglas
like pines and firs,
or like
but
a spruce
where we
or
live,
whatever.
redwoods are also evergreens, and so are bay laurel
We can't put
trees.
those in the house.
No,
Too big.
they're very large.
Yeah.
They're very large. In fact, our whole house is made out of one.
Yeah.
But that's its own thing.
Inside
So,
a Christmas tree.
so if you're talking about ancient cultures, they were looking at these evergreen trees and being like, "This is super rad that these trees grow like all year round." And they really sort of equated that to the power of the sun, keeping these trees alive. And these evergreens, and in addition to that, bringing them inside and using them to decorate or to honor a specific festival or time period, was associated with sun gods such as Balder or Saturn, who would be Cronus in Greek, but Saturn in Roman is different than Cronus in Greek. There are some very key differences there, as well as Horus, if you're
rings.
looking at Egyptian mythology. There are other sun gods that were tied to evergreen trees. We're not going to get into all of those now.
Yeah,
but,
as well as like theoretically. Okay, so I just got done reading Brahms' Krampus. No connection. But if you've not read Brahms' Krampus, the book is called Krampus. It's by the author Brom, Brom. Read it. It's really good. We've read it every year for a couple of years now. Yeah. It's like a Christmas tradition for me now to read it like around like Thanksgiving, just before Christmas season.
Yeah.
But like, so in that Krampus, it's sort of claimed, and it's a fictional book, but it's based on a bunch of research and whatever. But you hear it a lot where the Christmas tree is associated with Balder, or you hear that the Christmas tree is associated with Krampus. Sneaker at time, it's associated with both, which makes it whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea of bringing an evergreen into the house is very like holding the life,
from the summer season,
like near you during theoretically like some of the worst parts of the year.
Yeah.
You know?
And people would bring in bringing in whole trees is a pretty modern thing.
Yeah.
But people would bring in boughs or sprigs of evergreen plants into their homes and into their temples during the wintertime for decoration.
Also refresh the air and the smell in the house.
But not just for their magical properties or honoring a specific god, but also for their more like herbalist properties, so evergreens have certain properties that sort of like repel bugs, and they make the air fresh, and they sort of help to cleanse things.
Exactly.
So there's some of that in there too. In fact, a lot of ancient practices sort of have like 1 foot on the magical side of the line and 1 foot on the like molecules, practical properties,
practical science. You know, like, I'm going to sage this thing for cleansing, but it's like also because like it drives away bugs, like mites and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's so many things that is like butchering an animal for a big party.
Yeah.
Is it a sacrifice, or is it because you needed to make dinner for 50 people? Why not both? There's a lot of why not both in magic.
Yeah. And like some of this too is a little bit practical, but also aesthetic. So people first started by bringing the branches into the home, and then it evolved into people decorating these branches, because if they're there, like, they're already pretty, right? But why not make them more prettier? And then it eventually evolved into a tree being brought in and decorated. But the origin of the Christmas tree itself is disputed. So there are a lot of people that say that it's an ancient Yule thing, and ancient people would cut down trees and put them in their home. And to that point, I want to remind you, most of these people, especially in far Norse areas, lived in either great halls together, where they would sort of conserve all of their resources, or they lived in smaller homes. And those that lived in smaller homes, it was not uncommon for them to live in the house with animals, particularly their livestock, not just dogs and cats, but also their sheep and their goats. And sometimes you'd see a cow or maybe a horse. It
Keep
depended
your whole
on...
house warm. Put a cow in there.
Yeah, I mean, animals,
Yeah.
you know, everything has like that sort of heat there. So, you know, having a whole ass tree in your house, that's a lot of room, especially if you don't have a very large house. So I find that personally, I think that that's a little maybe not right. Boughs, sprigs, decorations, yes. Whole trees,
like a tree
probably
top
not.
or something. But even
Yeah.
that, you know, like...
Yeah. Now the first reference
I would
is,
think of it more of like a centerpiece on your table or on a
an altar place
not
or something.
I kind of don't think that it made sense that people brought in trees in the same way that we do currently. When you primarily when you think about like the conservative size of houses.
Yeah.
You know?
And the first references like on paper to decorating trees actually started in the 16th century, which is the 1500s. And at that point, people were talking about decorating boughs of evergreen trees with like oranges and shoving a candle in the orange because, I don't know, reasons. And you know, putting other things on there, but having Christmas trees, having an actual tree as a decoration didn't really become common as a home decoration until like the 19th century. So we're looking at like Victorian times. And even then it was primarily a rich people thing and slowly sort of trickled down to lower classes, because not only do you maybe not have room in your home for this big old tree, but you may not have enough decorations for it, and you may not have a way to keep it from turning into an incredibly horrifying fire hazard by keeping it wet or tended and it drops, you know, all that stuff about trees. The reason why we have artificial trees today. So that's not to say that there's anything wrong with these trees, but the next time somebody says, oh, these trees, pagan stuff, you're like, yes, but also Victorian.
It was primarily what it represented. I mean, again, we have to think of a lot of like modern Christmas traditions are modern in their inception,
and they come from
right?
a lot
I mean,
of
like look
different
at like
things, too.
Germanic practices around Christmas time with regard to like the Yule goat and the Yule log and Krampus and like leaving your shoes with candy outside to get like a little gift in your shoe, as opposed to the like definitely engineered by the people who are trying to get us to buy their stuff. You need to have underneath a giant Christmas tree a buttload of boxes wrapped in colored paper, what with got gifts in. I mean, like, we all want that, right? But like do you think a 13th century Saxon was doing that shit?
Definitely
like,
not.
come on, man. What were they buying? More rocks?
They
You got
certainly
rocks,
were not
bitch.
wrapping stuff in paper.
Paper was way too
hyper-rare.
valuable. Yeah. So you know, it's there's sort of like logics to all that stuff when you think about it.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
and speaking of paper, the next thing that we're going to talk about is holiday cards and gift giving. So that was a nice segue. I bet you didn't even know you did that. So
Not at all.
gift giving and holiday cards, while they're kind of separate, they're sort of also similar, right? So there is this idea that gift giving comes from an ancient Roman festival called Saturnalia. Remember how I said earlier that Saturn was different than Cronus, even though they're sort of like the same person in Greek mythology? So in Roman mythology, Saturn was a far different figure than just like a dude that Zeus murdered because he was his dad and eating his siblings. So Saturn was sort of like a bit more of a father figure. He is essentially father time, so he was considered to be an old man. So there's part of that sort of ties into maybe Santa Claus is from Saturnalia. We're going to talk more about that in future podcast episodes. So we're not going to get too deep into that now. But Saturnalia was a Roman festival that was held in mid to late December. And during this festival, people celebrated with feasts and parties and gambling and gift giving. And it's the gift giving that we really kind of want to focus on here. So these gifts were mostly small things like candles or small figurines made of wax, maybe dice or toothpicks. When I read toothpicks, I was like, oh, that's really funny. Why would you give somebody toothpicks? But then I was like, whoa, this is like thousands of years ago. A toothpick would have been a lot harder to come by than it is now. Also, people would give sausages. Sausages were a very common gift then, as well as cups or combs.
Meat is expensive.
I mean, if
and
somebody
has
was
value,
like,
man.
here's a sausage and a toothpick for Christmas, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Well,
Especially
when you
for-
think about it, Isn't that kind of what your companies give you for Christmas gifts?
Those,
it's just
like,
a
summer
box.
sausages?
It's just like a box with like a fucking sausage and some cheese and a toothpick. Like, I'm not hating on those. I cannot stress enough. I fucking love.
Oh, they're so
those
good.
Garbage meat and
I
cheese
love those.
boxes.
They're so good.
Right? It's so much better than like fucking C's candy. Like, I don't want candy. Give me meat.
Yeah, my boss
What's
gave
up?
me a one that had like a whole bunch of dried fruits in it last year,
Yeah.
and I had to. It was so good,
Very fancy.
and I had to stop myself from eating too much dried fruit at once because of reasons. So anyway, most of these gifts were small things, but sometimes people would give more costly gifts, such as writing
Like
tablets.
a big horse outside of somebody's castle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't really have castles in Rome.
was just making
But,
fun
like,
of
that is one of the things. So, like,
Trojan horse.
writing tablets or parrots were also common to give as gifts.
I got you a parrot.
Here's a parrot. It's
Just
like, "Wah."
in the hand. Parrot
As
in the
well as
hand.
clothes. But, like, this is, like, again, thousands of years ago. It would have been a super posh gift for
Yeah.
like a rich person
like a
to
fancy parrot with,
give.
like, hat and
Yeah,
monocle.
and gag gifts were also popular too. But here's the thing about these gifts: is it was actually really common for the closeness of you to the person that you're giving the gift to, like as your closeness to that person increases, the like perceptive value of the gift from someone else's perspective would be less. So like we're married, I would give you like a silly tiny dumb gag gift.
Yeah.
But like
Rock with a bow tie.
yeah, but like if it was like your boss would give you a much more extravagant gift, and they might also actually give you money so that you could buy other people gifts as well, because you basically had to give gifts to people. So
Yeah.
gag gifts were super popular, especially from close friends, not so much family, but definitely close friends and lovers as well. So Catullus, who was a Roman poet, he wrote that he once received a book of bad poems by the worst poet of all time from a friend. That's pretty
Nice.
hilarious. Give your friend who's a poet a
Like
really
gag
bad book
poets?
of poems.
I want to read this bad book of poems.
Yeah. Now, in addition to giving these gifts, it was also common to give the person a short verse or poem. So when we think verses, we primarily think of more of a Christian verse kind of thing, but it's really just sort of like a short poem or
Yeah.
like a saying or something like that. So that was really common to give along with gifts, and you can really see that that's a precursor to modern greeting cards in a way, because sometimes they were like, hey, you're awesome, I hope you have a good time, basically.
Yeah.
But some of them could have been a lot more artsy, sort of as you go.
Yeah. Well, if you paint on it. If you can write a funny joke, you write a funny joke on it. Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Exactly. And sort of in a similar time frame, getting into this gift card or greeting card thing, not gift cards. In ancient Egypt, people would regularly send papyrus scrolls with well wishes on them to people. This wasn't specific to a certain time of year, mind you, but if you had something happening in your life and you had a friend or a
It's just a
family
get well
member
soon
from far
card.
away, they're going to send you something like a get well soon card or a congratulations card,
Yeah.
or something along those lines. So we can really definitely see that there are some ways that ancient heathen and pagan and really just sort of non-Christian practices influenced holiday cards and gift giving. When you look way back, it's kind of like that graphic that's the monkey that goes to the human. So we're kind of looking at what does the monkey look like, and
Yeah.
we are the human now.
Regardless
when
of
we
the
look
fact
at
that
this stuff.
graphic's technically incorrect.
Yes, it is, but it's an easy.
Why aren't monkeys evolving into humans right now? Because that's not how evolution works, obviously. Are you not paying attention in 3rd grade? Damn, son. What's up? Right? How Horace evolved into Hallmark? Yeah. Shots fired at somebody. I don't know who.
I'm not really sure who, but I feel like my tattoo is itching.
Yeah,
'Cause
right?
I have a Horace tattoo.
Horace is just like, none of this shit, man. It's not wrong, but it's also not right. I don't like it.
Yeah.
He's not getting kickbacks.
So one of the other ones that we're going to talk about with the holidays that is something that you've actually already mentioned, and that's the Yule goat. So the Yule goat isn't as popular as some of these other traditions that
Yeah,
we've talked about.
it's a
But the Yule goat is still fairly
smaller
popular in
thing.
heathen and pagan communities.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of them for sale during this time of year. They're typically made of straw, which is sometimes different colors, and are put together with sort of like ribbons. So the Yule goat itself does have a direct pagan influence to it. And it's thought to be a symbol of Thor's goats, Tangrisnir and Tangnostir. And it actually originates even further back from Thor. But in our Thor deep dive, we kind of talk about Thor being sort of like a carryover from ancient Proto-Indo-European practices. And the Proto-Indo-Europeans were in sort of like Central Europe and went all the way west into Russia and a little bit south into some of the areas bordering upon the Middle East.
You mean east?
Oh, yes, east. The other way.
I'm like west into Russia from fucking where?
Wrong
Canada? Alaska?
It's that thing where somebody's like, do I go left here? And you're like, right. And you're like, no, that's the wrong way.
That's why you say correct. Specificity. I talk about this all the time in language. Specificity. English is a bad language. You got to be way specific, guys. Trust me.
And the Proto-Indo-Europeans were around a very, very, very long time ago. So we're looking at like AD, like 4,000 to like, or BC. Yeah, BCE, like 4,000, all the way back to like BCE 10,000. So we're talking like literally thousands of years ago. So Thor is thought to be sort of a remnant of practices that they had there, and his goats were the same and similar there. And they had a lot of magical practices associated with goats because it was a pretty common food as well. And really sort of the TLDR of the Yule goat is that the Proto-Indo-European practices, which sort of morphed into Germanic and Norse and even Slavic magical practices, were honoring not only a goat, which is a source of food, but also the grain, especially the last sheaf of grain from the year. And most of these cultures felt that this grain had magical properties. So you would take the last sheaf of grain from the harvest and you would craft it into something. And in this case, it was a goat. But in other parts of Europe, you would craft it into other things, such as dolls and wreaths and stuff like that. We talk about that a little bit more in some of our harvesty Sabbath episodes. But we can see that the Yule goat is a direct descendant there.
Yeah, totally. And again, in the like just, you know, it fits the book that I just read. They mention that Krampus's sleigh is pulled by two goats in this book, as well as like in some like woodcut art sort of stuff. You see like you'll see him pulled by a goat or two goats, as opposed to like reindeer.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tangrisnir and Tangnostir are like really cool. Normally we actually have Yule goats and we just haven't ordered them yet.
Yeah.
We
maybe we'll end up making them this year.
Maybe we'll make them. We'll probably order them. That seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, we haven't decided yet. We do need to get more hay for our animals. But...
I made candles.
But we made candles.
I made Christmas candles.
Yeah.
I have to repaint like half these fucking ultra tiny Christmas houses because we have two scales of tiny town in one town.
And we've decided that basically it's humans and fairies.
Yeah. It's like a half human, half fairy town.
Mostly fairies. There's more fairy buildings.
We got to repaint stuff.
There's only actually one human building, and it's a tavern. So we're living our best life.
There is a tavern for the fairies also, though, because guess what? It's the main thing that we care about. Drinking.
Yeah. And apparently water towers, because we're always trying to get more water towers.
Yeah.
We need liquid. So we talk more about some of these aspects, as well as other things associated with Yule in our Yule podcast. So we are coming up on our anniversary here, but that would be episode number 2.
Yeah.
So that's going way back. But also we're going to be doing a Yule episode soon.
Yeah, so episode 2 of the podcast was like Yule 101, intro to Yule sort of a thing. And then this year we're going to do like a Yule 102. Or 202 or however
and we're going to go
work.
deeper into some of those sort of things and include a brief ritual for you to use for Yule.
Yeah, brief ritual. We're going to talk, in my opinion, a bit more about Krampus and such.
Yeah.
You know, we're just going to get a little bit more deep divey, and we're going to keep doing that as the year progresses.
Totally. Yeah.
Right, next up.
So next up in the holidays time frame is New Year. So during New Year's, New Year is definitely not a ancient pagan sort of thing, but basically every culture around the world celebrates New Year at some point in time during the year. It just sort of depends on the culture when they celebrate that New Year. So in particular, in modernized Western world, we celebrate New Year on January 1st. And there are some ancient cultures that celebrate it in March, and some of them that celebrated it later, and some of them that celebrated it earlier. So it's kind of all over the place there. But we're going to talk first about resolutions. So New Year's resolutions are one of those things similar to gift giving, where it does have some ties to ancient pagan practices, but is not necessarily wholly cut and pasted from ancient pagan practices.
Sure.
So the Romans began each year by making promises to Janus, who was the god of beginnings and time.
Janus?
Janus. Janus.
Janus. Yeah, like the secretary.
No.
I was going to make a Weeby Jammin' joke, but, Janus is even funnier, so
yeah.
I'll allow it.
So Janus was the Roman god of beginnings, time, transitions, and passages. And for the Romans, their New Year began around the same time that our New Year happens here, so we can see that sort of similar time. And the Romans, they believed that the beginning of something was an omen for how the whole thing will go. So that's not just the year, that's also like other things that you'd be doing. So if you go on a voyage, the first thing that happens on that voyage, if it's positive, that like would foretell that the rest of your voyage would be positive. And if that thing was negative, then that would foretell the rest of your voyage would be negative. Yep. So it was a popular custom to exchange well wishes during this time of year. And this practice may have actually come from the Egyptians, who, as we just talked about, used to send papyri with well wishes on them. So
and Hallmark gift cards.
Yeah, so eventually, sort of by hook or by crook, this changed into not just well wishes, but promises. And it didn't really start with promises like, I promise myself I'm going to do something, but like, I promise you I'm going to do something for you. So it's kind of like a weird place.
Like proto New Year's resolutions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, something that isn't necessarily New Year's based, but sort of happens at all of these festivals that we've been talking about throughout the year, is feasting. So we know that feasting is a huge part of every single festival and party that we have.
Feasting's important for all cultures. Feasts are how you party.
Yeah.
Next.
Now, on New Year's specifically, it's common in various regions of the world to have a feast. I think in America, we're mostly more about the party and less about the food part of it.
Definitely no. Nobody cares about the food on New Year's. I mean, I would argue that second to Thanksgiving in American feast days is probably the Super Bowl. It goes like Thanksgiving, American football, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Anything else that you're talking about?
4th of July.
Christmas. Yeah, probably 4th of July. Even the Super Bowl is bigger than the 4th of July food-wise. Super Bowl food is like its own weird, important holiday to Americana. But at the same time, I mean, who doesn't want like a fucking stadium of nachos?
I definitely want a nacho stadium.
Nacho stadium is like my dream, dude. Yeah, 100%. I'm not even like a huge, I watch football. I like football. I have a football team. I get it. But, and I play fantasy football badly, but I play fantasy football. Dude, Super Bowl time, I'm just like, get the jerseys out. Let's be 100%,
Yeah.
Big nachos and hot dogs and fries. And sometimes it's just like, the two of us or like just a few people like
it's usually just us.
Yeah, normally it's just us, but sometimes it'll be like just us or like 5 people, and I've made enough food for like 35 people.
Yeah, and then we're eating nachos.
And then we're having nachos forever, which honestly,
forever.
that's a win. It's a win.
It is until the day where you're like, I don't want anything to do with these nachos. So feasting was and still is very common for New Year celebrations throughout the world. And in particular, what people tend to do for feasting for New Year's is they leave out food for spirits and ancestors so they can partake of them. That's sort of a custom that we've talked about in a few different episodes, but we talked about this fairly in depth in our Samhain episode, because a silent dinner or a dumb supper is something that's common during that time of year. So basically, you're looking at leaving out food for spirits and ancestors so that they have something to to eat because it was thought that they join you back at the holidays. And if you didn't set a place for them and have food for them, they would be angry and they would curse you and you would have bad luck for the next year. So you definitely don't want that.
Yeah.
But it's also about eating certain foods to help bring in prosperity and good luck. So as someone who grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area with a very like large Asian population, I would always celebrate Lunar New Year as a kid. And one of the things with the Lunar New Year is you have a lot of foods that are very specific that you serve that have essentially magical properties to them. You're eating certain foods for abundance. You're eating certain foods for good luck. And this isn't something that's only for Lunar New Year. This is something that happens all around the world.
It's not just magical. I mean,
anciently.
it's just like traditions and I mean, you know, it's all that stuff.
Yeah. So even in current day, it's common for certain areas of the world or people to bake bread and have charms inside of that. It's called king's cake. And you put little charms in there and whoever gets a charm has good luck. Or sometimes there's more than one charm in there, and or sometimes the charms are substituted with a bean, and you know, whatever they get, they have, you know, like if it's a baby, they're gonna have a baby, or if it's a coin, they're gonna get rich in the next year, that sort of thing. But also,
I have a king's cake baby charm at my desk from like 4 or 5 years ago at the brewery. We had a king's cake for Mardi Gras. I think we had it for Mardi Gras. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my slice happened to have a baby in it, so I have a weird mutant plastic baby.
Yeah, but having that is common in several parts of the world even today, in the UK as well as in Africa, surprisingly enough. But there's also other foods that you eat that remind you of things. So eating lentil soup is something that's common tradition, because the lentils look like coins, or black-eyed peas bring good luck. So some of this stuff has similarity to ancient pagan customs, but isn't necessarily an ancient pagan custom, because it seems like everyone everywhere kind of did this stuff.
Yeah.
So feast is sort of something all the time, but I wanted to hit that for New Year's because most places there's a feast for New Year's. And New Year's is also about charms for good luck. So in certain cultures, there are different sort of traditions that you either do or do not do, superstitions, if you will, for New Year's to bring good luck, such as not cleaning your house on New Year's Day, lest all the luck and good fortune be swept out of the house. You have to clean before or after, not during. Or wearing red or yellow, very specifically underwear. For good luck.
Certainly fucking never heard that one.
Yeah.
At all. Okay, so the New Year's traditions like that for me, the like charm, like good luck charm traditions that I grew up with, were that whatever you did on New Year's Day is how your year would go.
Yeah.
So like if you woke up and you were just like, fuck this shit, and you were like hella angry, you just woke up, chose violence all day, you don't have a violent year, right?
Yeah.
But if you like had a chill day and like had a good time, so it was always very like, we're just gonna like watch TV and like have delicious food and like be hella chill all day.
Yeah.
So that way you have like a stress-free year, sort of a thing. But like very specific charm wise was that you always have money in your wallet on New Year's.
Yeah.
Because if you had no money in your wallet on New Year's, like if you had no money on your person all day, then you would have like a poor year. And if you had money on you all day, then you would have a rich year. That is a tradition that I still do. Yeah. I still always make sure to have cash in my wallet.
Kissing at midnight thing.
Yeah. Totally.
Otherwise,
it's exactly
you'll have
the same.
love in your life for the rest of the year or something.
You gotta be loveless. You gotta die alone.
Mean.
Whatever.
So parades.
I've never understood the kissing at midnight one. That one's always kind of ridiculous to me.
Well, I think that one's mostly like a joyous thing, but it sort of evolved into this belief that if you don't kiss
it's
someone
like the
at
magic
midnight,
of the kiss cam. Sometimes, look at that. That's a cute couple. Sometimes, it's weird. You're focusing on the wrong two people.
Yeah, sometimes those
Making
people are friend zoned.
Yeah.
And sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes they're siblings, which would be weird.
Yeah. Well, there's that like super famous GIF where it's like a dude and a chick sitting next to each other, and like the kiss cam's like panning around at a baseball game or whatever, and it like catches on these two, and this dude just like looks down and pulls up a sign that says "It's my sister," and the kiss cam like immediately just like fires off somewhere, like these two make out. We're so sorry, my bad. you know?
Yeah, as
Or
someone
like
who,
when it captures like two people, but it's like me and the chick next to me, and I'm just like, no, it's this. You gotta go this way, and they like pan over slowly, and you're just like, oh, this is actually our relationship. You just chose the wrong
side.
Like
of
the
that
wrong
couple.
side of the couple.
As someone who has a sibling who's like close enough in age, but we don't look very much alike, like that's always been an awkward moment for me where people are like, oh, you guys are together. And I'm like, that's my brother. So anyway, back to New Year. So parades, and there are other holidays that parades are popular on, such as literally today, Thanksgiving. But New Year's Day parades are also pretty common too. And parades are not necessarily something that is pagan, but sort of has these like weird, maybe drawn out pagan roots. But also parades have been happening pretty much everywhere. So this is another one of those sort of...
Yeah, it's kind of everywhere.
Yes, but no. So parades have been popular since ancient times. And the oldest parades that we can find on record were solely religious observances. So people essentially marching to the temple, or people from the temple going to a place.
Yeah.
Like we talked about in the Isis episode, you would bring her statue from the temple to the water. So that would have been a parade.
Yeah.
And then over time, they became more
It's
lighthearted and
it's just a
associated
line
with other
party.
events.
That's what it is. It's just a line party.
An ancient conga line, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Yeah, so next up in the holidays list here, but not necessarily holidays TM, is Valentine's Day. So historically, this is the time that spring celebrations start happening, which are all about fertility and love. So that makes sense. And that definitely sort of tracks with some of the pagan things. And in particular, a lot of people say Valentine's Day is a remnant of a ancient Greek and Roman festival called Lupercalia. Actually, I think it's a Roman festival called Lupercalia, because that was also celebrated around the same time of year. However, this is the first of a few things that we're going to find that don't actually have pagan origins in the way that people would say that they do. So Lupercalia was an event, and it was a festival that was about purity and health. It has nothing to do with connections to romantic love. If anything, it would have to do with familial love, or a devotional type love.
Yeah, filial love, familial love. Because to the Greeks and the Romans, there were like 4 different kinds of love or something. Man, it's been a long time since I've
There was a bunch of different kinds of love.
But there were, and they had very specific, defined, and different meanings. So romantic love, or what is romantic love called?
Oh, I don't remember in the ancient Greek thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a different thing than what Lupercalia
exactly.
was on
So
about.
the thing about Valentine's Day supposedly being an ancient pagan custom, people are like, oh, during Lupercalia, couples were supposed to have put their names in jars, and then people were randomly chosen to have sex.
That just sounds like the Greeks were like, hey, what if we had a key party in the middle of this other party?
So
and
the thing about
like,
that is that's the first time that was mentioned was in the 13th century. And that's way after
so
ancient
Roman, the 13th
and
century.
This particular custom was associated with Valentine's Day, but had nothing to do with Lupercalia.
Yeah.
So
that's just a key party.
It's like
not Valentine's Day.
Not
it's
pagan.
not Lupercalia. It's just that somebody hung a pineapple outside of their house.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Now over time between the ancient Greek festival of Lupercalia and what we have today, and even in the 13th century, as the Christianization of Europe happened, they started making Valentine's Day into a love festival. My guess is because of ancient fertility celebrations being in the early and even into the late springtime, but also like you got to have people reproduce so that you have more people to worship your god. So there's that too. Yeah. But
I don't know. To me, Valentine's Day is just a fucking Hallmark holiday. You know?
Me too. Yeah,
like,
we don't even celebrate it.
What are you gonna do? Buy chocolates and shit? Yeah.
We get wings every Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we get wings. It's not. I don't know. It's just.
But we get wings all the time.
That's fair. We also had wings like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
It's just like a pretend holiday.
Yeah. So Valentine's Day, not a pagan origin there. So moving on to the next holiday is St. Patrick's Day. Now, St. Patrick's Day is kind of a weird one too, because this is in that like springtime where some of these things were celebrated by the ancient people for spring and rebirth and renewal, and in several places in Europe, this was like New Year's, so there would have been more partying.
I'm going to step in, and we're going to talk a little bit about St. Patrick's Day TM, just to clarify some shit. In America, St. Patrick's Day is like a weird Irish party holiday, where it's just like, kiss me, I'm Irish, and if you're not wearing green, we get to pinch you, and you're having stouts for beers, and like that kind of a thing. That's not what St. Patrick's Day is everywhere.
Yes.
It's like a chill boy family get together sort of holiday in some places. I had a buddy from North Ireland who, a Mason buddy, older gentleman, who was just like, American St. Patrick's Day makes no sense, and I don't know where it came from, but like for us, for him and his family in the area of Ireland where he lived, his family for St. Patrick's Day would like get together and like they would get together at whoever's house and have like a big feast, and it was honestly a lot like Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like American Thanksgiving was his like Irish St. Patrick's Day, and they would do that, and he like knew some people who would like the whole family would like hike across town together to the church, and the church would have like a big service or whatever, and so like it was a way totally different thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't do like young kid bar St. Patrick's Day. That shit's awful.
There's an English pub
I hate
that we like.
But there's
to
like
go
a
to
there's a fucking
we...
awesome English pub in Sonoma County that we go to.
And they do good food and they have good beer.
Shout
and
out
they
to
live a band.
Paul. If you're ever in Sonoma County, go to Toad in the Hole in Santa Rosa. It's literally the best ever. So we go there. They have live music, and they've got the food, and they've got pipes, and I'll stay there like all day when I can, and just like listen to music and hang out. And it's just like a chill hangout with friends. Yeah, it's friends come and go because we just let everybody know like, hey, we're gonna be at Toad all day, and people just come and go and hang out, and we'll stay super late and listen to like they'll have like a bunch of different live bands and shit. Yeah. So we don't really celebrate like pop culture St. Patrick's Day in America.
Yeah. And there are some things associated with St. Patrick's Day that are sort of pagan-y inspired. And one of those is leprechauns. So leprechauns are actually a type of fairy. They're typically solitary. They usually dress in a top hat, coat, and breeches. So that looks pretty much like what we would imagine a leprechaun would look like today. Yeah. And these leprechauns
can also be found in hoods.
Or in space.
So one time.
These leprechauns are typically thought of as being mischievous beings. And they have little beards. Fairies. And they're sometimes thought to be shoemakers that have a pot of gold hidden at the end of the rainbow, and that they enjoy practical jokes. Much of the sentiment goes back into more ancient times from a pagan standpoint there. So leprechauns kind of pagan. We talk a little bit more about fairies in general in our in our Working with Fairies podcast.
Working with the Fae podcast.
Working with the Fae, but we don't talk specifically about leprechauns there.
We should do a like classifications of Fae episode. We should put that on our list.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. So then the other thing for St. Patrick's Day is shamrocks. So shamrocks are technically a three.
It's a kind of colored
plant.
Shake from McDonald's.
It's delicious.
It's not. The shamrock shake is gross,
so
dude.
Shamrocks are a three-leaved plant, which is now historically associated with the Christian Holy Trinity. That's sort of like if you look at St. Patrick's Day, like information, they're like, he talked about it being the Holy Trinity, but it used to be associated with the triple goddess or the Triskel, which is a triple spiral symbol that is very intrinsic to pagan culture. Now the four-leaf clover thing with shamrocks, I mean, really that's just sort of like a genetic like oopsie.
Oh yeah, some of them are 4 leaf. You get them like 7 leaf
even
or
have
whatever.
Yeah, you get them more than that. Yeah. So really it's just that shamrocks were a sort of sacred plant, and then as time went on, if you found a shamrock that had more leaves than usual, you'd be like, wow, this is really dope. And that sort of turned into a extra lucky symbol.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So next up on our little holiday roller coaster is Easter. So Easter is definitely right in the middle of that springtime, pagan time, talking about fertility, and we're talking about the rebirth of the earth, and we're celebrating essentially New Year because the earth is kind of come back to life. Yeah. And the most common thing that we really do on Easter is decorate eggs.
Yeah, come from rabbits.
Yeah. Come for the eggs, stay for the rabbits. So we've been decorating eggs since since woolly mammoths were roaming the earth.
Yeah. You got an egg? Put some art on that.
Humans have been decorating eggs for a very, very, very long time. So this isn't necessarily a pagan thing, but it is an ancient thing. And Easter happens around the time of year that chickens would start producing more eggs. So this would definitely be seen as a time of rebirth and things coming back alive. But then also, like, you've been getting very little to no eggs all winter, and all of a sudden now you've got a whole bunch of eggs. You got to do something with them. So you're going to cook them up, and people are going to eat them.
Make a quiche.
Yeah, make a quiche. Make some hard-boiled eggs. Make some deviled eggs.
Make some Scotch eggs. What's up? Scotch
Make
eggs.
some Scotch eggs. And other traditions like the Easter Bunny, or just in general celebrating rebirth, like we'll talk about zombie Jesus here, have roots in pagan traditions celebrating spring as well as the rebirth of the earth. But again, this is something that sort of happens throughout all cultures. So is this pagan? Kind of, because almost every ancient culture celebrated spring.
It's sort of pagan plus.
Yeah.
Right? It's like pagan, but more, it's got more. There's more stuff attached to it. And we do have a podcast episode, which is episode number 8, about a Ostara.
Ostara.
Ostara. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can listen to that, and we have more information about that episode there.
All right, we're back.
Yep.
Back at it. Krispy Kreme, whatever. Let's talk Mother's and Father's Day.
Yes. So I sort of blended these together because there's a lot of things that kind of like go hand in hand. Yeah. So there are some sources that think that these have something to do with ancient pagan or heathen practices. And first of all, there is not a one-for-one example of Mother's or Father's Day in ancient religions. Often during festivals celebrating mother or father gods or ancestors, mothers, fathers, ancestors would also be celebrated, but there is no link to Mother's and Father's Day. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So Mother's Day, there were some ancient Greek cults that worshipped Rhea, or Roman cults worshipping Cybele in the springtime. That's really more of that like fertility, Mother Earth kind of thing. And most heathen and pagan religions also celebrated mother goddesses, but that was usually in late winter and sometimes in spring. So again, there's not really anything there that ties those together. And similarly to Father's Day, there were father gods such as Zeus or Odin or the Dagda who were worshipped and had feast days in ancient times. Many of these days were during the height of summer or during the dead of winter, sort of depended on where you were and what you were doing. So none of this stuff is really tied to any sort of ancient heathen or pagan things other than like sometimes you would honor family members. Now there was something that I saw that was kind of interesting that I wanted to talk about here, and that was that there are some people that believe that Father's Day, and specifically giving tithes for Father's Day, has heathen and pagan roots. So they seem to think that Father's Day has something to do with ancient traditions where you would tie a ribbon around a goat's neck so that you could then later sacrifice it. This is tying a ribbon around a goat's neck like that is either a precursor to the Yule goat or a great way to mark a goat that needs to be culled, because as someone who has chickens, that sometimes we have to cull the chickens. If you have ones that look the same, how are you going to tell which one is which so you're getting the one that you want? Yeah. Both of these precursors would have literally nothing to do with Father's Day
or modern
ties at all. In fact,
I did not know about any of this. This sounds ridiculous. I've never heard this. I would laugh in somebody's mouth if they said that. I would be like, no, it's absurd.
It was
what are you talking about?
I had never heard this, but
unless these people's dad is a goat.
In doing research, I found a ton of people talking about this, and I was just like, what is happening? So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Father's Day, so that way, in case, especially if you have any like very, very religious Christian people in your life that are like, Father's Day is pagan, you can tell them actually no.
Oh, they're trying to use it like against Father's Day.
Yes.
Who's hating on fucking Father's Day?
I don't know.
What the
There are
shit
people
is
that are hating on
that?
Father's Day. So Mother's Day has been around as a
dumb.
holiday for a while, but it's still a pretty modern invention, kind of coming around at the turn of like the 19th century. So like right around 1900, or the turn of the 19th into the 20th century. So like right around the early 1900s, we started getting Father's Day. And this one lady who really liked her dad and thought her dad was an awesome guy wanted to have a day to recognize fathers for all that they did. And in 1972, President Nixon signed Father's Day as into being an official U.S. holiday. Mother's Day had been around for a while, and this lady, her name was Sonoma Smart Dodd. She felt it wasn't catching on quick enough. Father's Day was not catching on quick enough. So she partnered with a group called the Associated Menswear Retailers, who later became the Father's Day Council. And they started putting a ton of marketing money into Father's Day. And in the early times, it was like very general stuff, like dads like fishing, dads like cooking, barbecuing.
I'm gonna have to talk to Dad, because when Dad was a kid, he would have been a kid before Father's Day was signed into law.
Yes, but Father's Day would have still been celebrated a little bit, but like very generic. Like dads like to come home and have booze. Dads like to go out and go fishing.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing.
We're going to my sister's for Thanksgiving, so I'm gonna have to talk to my dad about pre-Father's Day and see what that is.
Yeah.
Like, I knew this, but I guess I never really thought about it.
Yeah, so coming back to this menswear retailers, ties are a small item of menswear, and ties are also pretty inexpensive, so they're an easy buy, especially if you're giving a kid money to buy something for their parent, something for Father's Day, or if your father had to wear them frequently, so you can see
and
where
like
that's
long
an easy
gone
piece.
is the only black tie thing. Like, you know, a tie is that like rebel expression within the corporate, you know, like system.
Yeah, it's like how you're like
it's
flying
like
your flag.
ties are for business folks as teachers are, or as socks are for teachers. You know?
I've never heard of socks for teachers.
Really? Oh my god, like every teacher I know is like has like a monstrous collection of the most artistic, like beautiful fucking weird kind of socks. Yeah, they're all like sock collectors.
That's so weird.
And like every one of the teachers that I know who teach like young kids, they're like, yeah, it's great. Like I get all kind of socks from my kids and shit because they know it's like fun. They're festive. You can get festive socks. You put them on your clothes.
I like socks too. So that's some interesting stuff about Mother's and Father's Day. So while this one is a less common trope of being a heathen or pagan holiday, it's still out there, and that one is firmly in the no pile. Yeah, not heathen or pagan. Now, in the spirit of debunking, we're going to move on to Independence Day. Specifically American Independence Day. There may be listeners from other lands who have different Independence Days.
I mean, there are definitely listeners from other lands with different Independence Days. This is only for America. It's like the movie, but with less Will Smith, which honestly kind of makes it worse.
It does make it worse.
Yeah.
So America's Independence Day is another one where people have said that we should not celebrate it because it has roots in heathen or pagan practices.
I have fucking never, not even bloody once heard. First of all, Independence Day is like one of my favorite holidays. I love American food. Yeah. Right? 2, who doesn't want to celebrate our freedom as a country by blowing up small portions of it for shits and gigs? Yeah. All right. And 3, red, white, and blue. Just everything can be red, white, and blue. I love Independence Day. I love barbecuing.
You're also very patriotic. All of that stuff.
I'm also like hyper patriotic, right? Yeah. And I don't know. There's something. Independence Day is like one of my favorite ones.
If you're watching on YouTube, we have an American
flag.
Yeah,
you can see our inside the house American flag. We also have an outside the house American flag. Yes. Yeah. And technically a car American flag that I just haven't hung on my truck.
So some of these people say that America's Independence Day has pagan or heathen roots because of the date. The date was chosen because it is the date of the Declaration of Independence. The people that are trying to tie these to pagan things are trying to tie this to the pagan festival of Midsummer.
Does Independence Day and Midsummer correlate?
Not at all. In fact, never.
Right?
Because Midsummer always happens
gangster.
in
I was
late
just like
June.
I was like, I mean, I guess late June is early July.
It's close.
It's close. Okay.
It's close.
I get I see it's a fucking reach, but sure. Yeah. Okay.
And then there's also regionally
also Midsummer parties. Way more wild than Independence Day parties. Yeah. Different party.
So regionally inside the U.S., there are a lot of different customs that people would have for Independence Day. So feasts and having games outside and bonfires. And while some of these celebrations have a vaguely pagan flavor, especially for those of you that have listened to some of our like summertime Sabbath episodes.
Feasts and games outside and bonfires is just called a fair, dog. Are all fairs pagan? Like, relax, guys.
So we talk about some of these items in our Midsummer and our Lunasa episodes. But these aren't tied to ancient pagan things because they don't really correlate with Independence Day. So if somebody is telling you that Independence Day has pagan roots, it doesn't. Also, fireworks are from China and have literally nothing to do with ancient heathen or pagan practices, in case that one comes
They're
up
just
as well.
awesome. Yeah, Independence Day is just hashtag America's awesome.
Yeah. So moving right along.
So weird. I've never even heard of that. I wouldn't have even guessed that. Honestly, half the fucking holidays you listed, I don't even consider real holidays. So
So moving along to Halloween. Most Halloween traditions do stem from older pagan and heathen beliefs.
You just listened to that episode. You know this.
That
We don't even
episode
have to
just
talk about
happened.
this.
That's episode
Let's go.
24 on Samhain. And we talk at length about these things, but I want to hit some key parts of Halloween just for any of you that may not have listened yet. So trick-or-treating is an ancient heathen and pagan custom, and it sort of like happens in a variety of ways. And the oldest information that we have about trick-or-treating is that in some parts of ancient Greece, children would dress up as swallows, like the bird, and they would go door to door singing songs, and they would threaten the owner of the household mischief if they did not give them food.
That's the best. Just like some fucking bird kids being like, give me some
kids like
shit.
wandering around the neighborhood being like, caw, give me some candy.
Yeah. Wow, I am so glad I'm only learning this now. I would have definitely been a piece of shit if I had known this in high school. I would have been like, everybody, we're dressing up like birds. We're just going to caw motherfuckers till we get free candy.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Now, while this is the earliest example we have of trick-or-treating, it was pretty common.
Definitely not the only one.
Yeah, it was really common for children as well as adults to dress up and go door to door, sometimes singing songs, sometimes in costume, asking for food and drink throughout time, particularly in heathen and pagan areas.
In any sort of like wintry or late fall-y sort of festivals. I mean, like wassailing is a thing, and that's in Bloody Yule. So
yeah, we should talk about it
and wassailing is basically trick or treat for Santa Claus.
Yeah, it's just wintertime trick-or-treat.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to talk about for Halloween is costumes. So costumes and masks and special clothing have been widespread elements of spiritual and religious practices going back for thousands of years across all of cultures. In fact, if you really want to think about it, a priest is someone who's just wearing a costume. They're
sort of, yeah. He has got special
like
clothing.
A churchy costume.
Yeah, he's got special clothing. I mean, like specifically the like horror, like jestery sort of like we're gonna fuck with your shit costumes. You know, the trick part of trick or treating. I mean, that's a little bit more modern. But when you think about it, a lot of this stuff falls into like generic a lot of festival shit, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's festival party time, you would generally have like a nice set of festival party clothing, sort of like the modern American equivalent of like put on your Sunday clothes, right? Because like your Sunday clothes are your good clothes, because are your church clothes. You're not like you get done with church, you go home, you change into regular clothes, you go out and do some shit. I'm not gonna go in my church clothes, get my church clothes dirty, have to get yelled at by my parents or some shit like that. That's a high risk move.
Yeah, so in a way, those are like costumes.
Yeah,
or like,
exactly.
If you think about weddings, and don't worry, guys, we will have an episode on weddings and hand fastings.
Oh my god, yeah, it's gonna be so long.
It's gonna be great. Like if you think about it, like especially from like a female perspective, like the bride's dress is sort of a costume because you're wearing a big fancy thing that honestly, when are you gonna wear that again?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of examples of using costumes and special clothing as well as
for
masks.
crying and drinking on the floor.
That is what it's
if you're in a movie crying and drinking on the floor in your wedding dress, it's classic.
Yeah.
I don't know what emotion that's supposed to be, but like whatever. They're like, what is this, a sad moment? I'm gonna put on my old wedding dress, cry and drink on the floor.
Specific to Samhain and
Hollywood.
like Halloween, it being the modern version of that, costumes were worn during this as well as some other ancient Celtic festivals to disguise the wearer, thereby protecting them from harmful spirits during the evening times.
Yeah. So the ghosts can't get you. When the ghosts are like, and you're like, nah, I'm not a person. I'm a
And so they don't
werewolf.
follow you home.
So don't worry about it. I'm doing werewolf shit, and the ghosts are like gangster. So then you're safe.
Yeah, so we talk about more of all this stuff in the Samhain episode too. So if you're interested in that, definitely check that out. And now we're around the wheel of the American holiday year, and we are back at Thanksgiving, which is today.
Which is actually today.
Yeah.
Like, Yeah.
Like after we're done
We're getting
here,
this done,
we're gonna
go to
to
dinner.
family
We don't
and
have
get
time.
some
Let's
dinner.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Thanksgiving, things get complicated, especially when you look at North America, because of the way that Native Americans have been historically treated here. So we're not going to be talking about
And
that
the
here.
like psycho myths
Yeah.
around Thanksgiving. The
Yeah.
like shit that
We
I don't know about you. I was
are-
taught I was in grade school in the 90s. And the shit that I learned about Thanksgiving was a lie. Not even like a little. It was
yeah.
hard, fast lies. They're like, hey, you're like, what's Thanksgiving? And they're like, we're just gonna make shit up on the fly. 100% no truth.
Yeah, and I was
Right.
in grade school in the 80s, and it was definitely like that too. So we are not going to be talking about
No, we're not
that
talking
stuff
about
here.
that part of Thanksgiving. Maybe future episode.
We are
do
going to
that.
talk about some of the things about Thanksgiving and the elements of them, but
Yeah.
not that stuff. So
Like feasting,
This
obviously.
is not the day that we get into
Every holiday has feasting.
Yeah. So the idea of celebrating for the harvest specifically is what Thanksgiving is. And it does have pagan and heathen roots. Although they are kind of everywhere also. This is
They're
this is one
it's
of those
super
like,
universal
here,
harvest
but also
festival.
everywhere.
Yeah, totally.
Festivals that thank in general or are grateful in general for the year's harvest exist in almost every culture in the world. We've talked about more of this stuff during our harvest episodes, which are Lunasa, that's episode 17, Mabon, episode 21, and Samhain, episode 24, as well as we talk about this stuff in modern Odinism in episode 25. So Thanksgiving is really originally a day that is celebrated to give thanks for the harvest and the community, as well as to bless the harvest for the coming year. As time has gone on, it has had less of the blessing for the coming year and all of that other stuff, and then become commercialized, really, essentially.
Well, it's less about the blessing and more about the thanking, right? So, like, modern American Thanksgiving, what are you taught? You're taught to, like, give thanks for the things that you have, right? And and from a practical ancient standpoint, that's 50% of the equation, right? Part of it is giving thanks for the harvest that you have that should be good enough so that way you don't die during the cold, dark, sad times, right? But then it's also used for, like, so that's the thanking part, and then there's the blessing part, which is like blessings for next year's harvest that it's also dope, so that way like you also make it through the winter and continue to stay and not a corpse.
Exactly. So in this respect of the thankfulness and sort of the idea originally behind Thanksgiving, it's very much like any and all of the harvest festivals. So Lunasa, Freesblot, Mabon, Winterfjed, Samhain.
Wow. I was like, where the fuck are you reading salmon?
I want some salmon, man. Let's get.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but like, let's get some salmon. So Samhain, Vertanatir, and Disablot are some very like specific examples of pagan and heathen harvest festivals. So we talk more about ways to celebrate for those harvest festivals in their respective podcast episodes.
Okay, nerdjive.com.
Yeah. So you can definitely hear about that there. But one thing that's really common for Thanksgiving in terms of symbolism is the cornucopia. So the cornucopia is a basket that is shaped like a horn, and it is a symbol of abundance, and it's typically tied to the harvest time and has been since ancient Greek time. And in fact, the word itself means horn of abundance in Latin. The symbol of the cornucopia is typically associated with deities that have to do with abundance and harvest and wealth or luck. So you see like ties in art for that stuff, especially in ancient Greece, because it seems like the cornucopia is a fairly European thing, like Greek and stuff. So other cultures also used basket imagery for abundance, but the horn shape...
Different shaped basket.
Yeah, the horn shape very specifically stems from ancient Greek sources. So some ancient gods that are Greek that have ties to the cornucopia in terms of like either their mythos or in their iconography is Zeus, Hercules, Demeter, Hades, Fortuna, as well as others. Like Aphrodite is a common symbol that she has in one of her personas is a cornucopia.
Cornucopacious.
Cornucopacious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being of having a cornucopia, I don't know. I'm pretty certain I'm close to using the right bullshit English, so whatever.
Yeah, so cornucopia Horn of Abundance is definitely something that has sort of pagan roots to it. But
honestly, I feel like cornucopia is way hotter in the 90s than today.
They
right?
were huge.
Like, as a kid, we were always doing cornucopia projects. And now I'm like, you don't see them in the stores. Like, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in your neck of the woods, cornucopias are hot still. But
you used
let
to see
me know.
cornucopia baskets and stuff.
Yeah, I
too.
feel like cornucopias are like
one.
not hot anymore or something, which I don't get. Honestly, I think cornucopias are dope. And I would love to get like a really nice, like a nice big cornucopia so we can use for like altar space during harvest festivals and shit like that. Like, I would love, like, I feel like as a kid, they were like, everybody had just like a cornucopia like a basket.
Yeah, and Martha Stewart has like a thing where you can like bake a cornucopia for like bread.
Oh
too.
shit, I don't know about that. All right, well, that's gangster.
Oh yeah. We could totally try something like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so those are the holidays.
Yeah.
So we found that some holidays definitely had pagan roots, some of the customs, that is, and some holidays did not at all have pagan roots.
Yeah.
But really, it seems like most of these holidays have some sort of similarity to or tie to pagan roots. But when we say that, that also means that like a lot of other cultures have these ties too.
Yeah.
So you can kind of think about like the shared human experience. So during holidays, especially those that people are like, you can't celebrate it because it's this or because it's that. Think about that stuff, because there are things that are directly tied to a specific tradition, but there are also things that are sort of similar throughout the world, and there's really no sense in gatekeeping that stuff when you can look, at another country or another religious tradition and find that similar stuff there. So it's really more of a reminder of how, as humans, we're all more the same than we are different.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the TLDR on this is that if you hear about something, fucking take it with a grain of salt, right? Oh, this Independence Day has some sort of American Independence Day, 4th of July got some sort of pagan significance. Like, that doesn't make any damn sense. Come on. We know better than that.
Yeah.
So, like, take it with a grain of salt. Do your research. Look it up. Don't just take it at face value. But also, I think the thing to take away from this is that no matter what your practice is and who you are and how you celebrate it, if you're trying to take a holiday, a modern Americanized version of a holiday, and you're trying to practice whatever your particular bend of ancient thing and celebration is, it's there. It's going to take some research, of course. It's going to take some digging. You're going to have to, kind of sift the wheat from the chaff on that one. But like every holiday, you can sort of celebrate in a more traditional way if you so choose, right? We're not doing nothing. I mean, like 4th of July, we don't do nothing. That's crazy. It's 4th of July, right? But like for Christmas, we do Christmas stuff and Yule stuff. For Thanksgiving, we do Thanksgiving stuff and just Thanksgiving. And for Halloween, we mostly do Samhain stuff. But we're also not going to be like, no candy for kids. Only whatever.
And
like,
during
that's
the holidays,
fucking
we
crazy,
also
man.
do a little bit of like Hanukkah stuff because my mom married a Jewish man.
Yeah.
So
we kind of do a little bit of all of it. And I think I think the benefit of looking at this, one, the simplicity of looking at this from the American perspective is because we're American. Duh. That's obvious. There we go. Bam. Okay. But more importantly, right, it's that idea that, like, so I was raised with the belief that America is the great melting pot of all culture. 2020 and 2021 have proven that maybe is not as melty. We need some emulsicant
and we need
added
somebody
to the pot.
Scrape off
Guys,
these burn bits on the side.
Can we stir the pot and just like kind of re-emulsify this old ass cheese sauce? But but still, right? It's that thing where it's like, do your research, find the things that you like, practice the things that you like. If you're out of the witchy closet, for a lack of better words, then you can have we do Christmas Day stuff, but we also have like a Yule celebration with our friends and family, and like we do Halloween Day stuff, but we also have like a Samhain celebration. So like you can sort of participate in all of it. We have an episode on Toxic Internet Witchcraft, but if you were trying to do if you are trying to make Thanksgiving and you took a picture on Instagram and your centerpiece is a cornucopia and some bloody ass hat wants to tell you how that cornucopia, some bullshit, fucking ignore the haters, bro.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's no gatekeeping. That's dumb, right? That's antithetical to like the furtherment of like betterness and knowledge for the rest of us.
Yeah.
So don't do that shit. But yeah, like I think that like looking at it from an American perspective, I think that it's very like, let's find the things that we like, find the things that fit with us, find the things that fit with our practices and our beliefs and our faiths and all that, and then work with them together. And you know what? Like my family, we have a significant mix of practice, for a lack of better words, and religion, and we just all celebrate all of it. Why not just do all of it, right? So just be chill and do some research, but also like make sure that shit makes sense, guys.
Yeah. Now, one thing we haven't talked about with the holidays yet is that, especially during the like holidays TM time frame from like Thanksgiving through New Year's, it can maybe not be as fun of a time for some people, and particularly getting together with family can be really difficult. So there are some ways that you can use magic to sort of help you support that, but the big caveat here is do not use any sort of magical stuff as a stopgap for actual mental health.
Yeah.
If you need assistance with that,
Yeah,
definitely talk to a professional. Yeah. But our spells today are really geared towards helping you get through maybe some of those trickier parts of the holidays. So the first spell that we have is
in the witchy closety.
Yeah. These are actually great for anybody that's in the closet. Of course, if you're not in the closet, these are great for you too. But these are specifically written with people in mind who don't have the ability really to do that. So if you're feeling like you need a bit of protection or shielding, you can enchant an item to carry with you. So we're going to talk about a protection bubble enchantment spell. And you can use this on pretty much anything you want to carry with you. It can be a rock you like. It could be a piece of jewelry or an item of clothing. It could be lipstick. It could be whatever you want. Sky's the limit here.
Yeah.
And this spell should be done before you leave your space. And if you need to, you could do this in a bathroom.
Before we get into these spells, we wrote these. These are ours. We're not claiming their connection to some sort of tradition. This is just the spells that we write. All of the spells we write are simply our spells based on our practice and our understandings and our knowledge. So again, like everything you should be doing on the internet, take it with a grain of salt. Oh my God, I shouldn't have to say that.
Yeah.
But like, definitely take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
You know, so just wanted to get that out there beforehand.
Yeah. So really for this spell, all you need is the item you want to enchant. But if you want to make this a little more fancy by incorporating like blessed water or moon water or sun water, or by like lighting a candle or doing some sort of other ritual, you can do that also. But it is unnecessary for this particular spell. So what you're going to do is you're going to place the item in your space. So the thing you want to enchant, put that in your space somewhere. If you've got an altar, you can put it there. If it's too big for an altar, put it somewhere else. But don't have it on you yet. So place the item in your space and clear your mind. And then focus on the item and think about how you'll be carrying it with you. Imagine yourself carrying it or wearing it. So if it's a rock, imagine it being in your pocket. If it's a necklace, imagine yourself wearing it. If it's a particular like shirt you like, imagine yourself wearing that shirt.
If it's a lightsaber, imagine wielding it.
Yeah, you could do this with a lightsaber too. I don't see a problem with that. So now imagine this item has a bubble around it that encompasses your entire body. Yeah. So you've got like a little bubble around you.
Like a Michael bubble.
Well, maybe not a micro bubble.
Michael bubble.
A Michael bubble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Michael Bublé.
Oh my God.
She got it, guys. Don't worry about it. It was a stretch. It was a soft joke. I'm sorry.
I thought you were making a Star Trek joke.
No. No.
I was just like, Michael
This
Burnham?
nerd's making a Star Trek
Discovery?
joke. Bam. Jeez.
So this bubble...
Check out our YouTube channel for fucking Trek Jive, our Star Trek reviews. They come out every week when I'm not inundated with work.
Yeah. So anyway, imagine that this item has a bubble around it and that encompasses your entire body. And this bubble is filled with white light. And it either incinerates or repels anything negative. So no badness getting into this bubble.
Bounce it off or, burn it.
Bounce it or burn it, however you want to do that. Just mentally burn it. Don't physically burn it. Drinking game. Be safe with fire.
Yeah, be fire safe.
Anyway, now that you've got this imagery in your head, you're going to be like imagining this bubble encompassing you. If it helps, imagine yourself walking like a badass with like, the explosion behind you, and you've got the thing and you've got the bubble, right?
Yeah.
So place your hands on the item and say aloud what you would like it to protect you from. Is there like a toxic person that'll be at a holiday gathering that you want their protection from? Do you want...
Don't let Uncle so-and-so talk to me. I don't have patience for that son of a bitch.
Exactly. Do you want any snarky comments to bounce off of this shield and disappear?
Yeah. Don't let them judge that I dress like a weird mountain wizard.
Yeah.
Those sons of bitches.
Do you not want negative energy?
Feel like I should have been doing this. Damn, bro.
Say, this is only a suggested list, so obviously you can do whatever you want with it. So say any or all of the things that you want it to protect you from. You can say this aloud, or you can say this in your mind place.
Cranberry sauce with chunks in it, that shit's gross. Sweet potatoes, that shit's also gross.
You're wrong. It's okay.
I'm not. It's impossible. I'm always right.
So once you've done this, you're basically done. Now you can sort of like go along your way. So as an example, besides his example of stuff that you want, you could say like, I enchant this sweater to protect me from negativity. It protects me from Karen's snarky comments. I don't know a Karen. If you're a Karen and you're not mean, I'm sorry. Every time I wear it, I feel
Karens
amazing.
did that to you, not us.
And bad energy bounces off of me. So, you can see the difference between us making sort of silly ways to say this, and you can say it however you want.
Yeah.
There's no specific thing you have to say. Really what you're doing
You can make it big and grand. You can joke about it. I mean, it just depends on what your coping mechanism is.
Yeah, it's
Mine is comedy, clearly.
However you want to handle that. Yeah. So that is the protection bubble enchantment spell. Yeah. And you can do this with things that are not necessarily holiday there, but I will tell you that if you do this with something and you have a particular holiday gathering that you're kind of like low-key dreading for whatever reason, this can definitely help you.
Yeah. It's like a worry stone.
Yeah, exactly. So the next spell that we have is actually a kitchen witchy spell. Yay! And this one is the Sweet Celebration Cocktail. So with this spell, as with many spells, and the one we just talked about, there's a lot of room for making changes here. So I'm going to talk about those first, and then we're going to talk about the things that are sort of like specifically geared towards this spell. So first, choose an alcohol of your choice. Gin, vodka, rum, tequila blanco, all those work well. You kind of want a lighter color if you can get away with it, but if all you have is like dark rum, that's okay too.
Yeah, it's just gonna make the drink look a little less appetizing.
Yeah. So it's just gonna be whatever color whatever alcohol you want to drink.
Yeah, we made ours last night with vodka.
Yes.
Because it was the only thing we had. We're out of gin, which is absurd, but
it is absurd.
I drink a lot of gin, so it makes sense.
Yeah. And so the next item is ginger ale. And ginger ale would be used to strengthen the spell if you use ginger ale, but this makes it a very, very sweet drink. And if you're not a sweet drink person, I recommend that instead of ginger ale, you go with a like a sparkling soda water or a champagne,
you could use a ginger
Prosecco,
beer if you want a strong ginger taste.
Yeah.
Or like a light ginger ale.
So if you're not into ginger ale, do something else. This is sort of like an optional spell ingredient.
Yeah,
here.
the ginger just adds strength.
Yeah.
Gusto.
Yeah, gusto. So here are the other items. So Saint Germain, this is a liquor that is flavored with elderflowers, and Saint Germain elderflower is for blessings and love. And also Saint Germain has a beautiful bottle, so you can save that bottle and use that for fancy water for you later. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1.
Yeah, we save a lot of bottles.
We definitely do. Yeah.
I drink a lot of alcohol.
So elderflower is Saint Germain, and that's for blessings and love. And then next we have orange juice for joy and abundance. Although really any citrus juice works here. They kind of all have that similar thing. So if you only have grapefruit,
joy and abundance,
that's fine.
Thing, yeah.
If you only have blood orange, that's weird, but that's fine. If you only have lemon juice, sure, go ahead.
Like gin and grapefruit in Saint Germain probably be fucking tasty, man. Now that I'm thinking about it.
So would lemon.
Yeah.
And also if you have lime, that's fine too. So any citrus really, but orange juice is what we went with. It's probably the easiest you can find. So orange juice for joy and abundance. And now that is it for the drink itself.
Juice, not a juice. Because juice has juice in it.
Yeah. So for garnish, you're going to use crushed rose petals for friendship. Obviously, if that's not easy for you to get, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But
or if you're just like, I don't want any friends. I got enough friends. Don't have those.
Yeah. So crushed rose petals as a garnish for friendship, and a sprig of rosemary for banishing negativity as a garnish.
As well as kind of genuinely mellowing out all of the like
sweet flower.
All the like sweet floral notes. Rosemary is a good one. And you can add rosemary in a bunch of different ways. I'm going to recommend not powdered rosemary from your spice rack.
Also, make it on a stick. Have the rosemary be intact.
Have it be on a stick. That's going to be the best. Although theoretically, if you have a shaker and you put all of this in a shaker,
you could do all this in a shaker.
You could shake this up and then pour it, double strain it through the shaker and then into just like a little basin strainer, and that'll catch the powder.
And it'll be enough
the
of a
little
taste.
bits, and that way it won't have to sit in there. Even though this is technically a garnish on top, it does add a bunch of complexity to the flavor of the drink.
Yeah.
So take that into consideration based on the ingredients you have and access of the things that you have.
Yeah.
You know?
So this is kind of like a fun celebration cocktail. It's got some ingredients that are kind of like, ooh, fancy, but without being over the top fancy. So if you're going to be hosting a party, or if you are going to a party, you could bring the ingredients for this. If you're just by yourself at home and you want to just have like a little bit of a pick-me-up, that's also a great time for this. This is a super, super great like holiday New Year type of cocktail.
Yeah.
So into the magic side of things. So as you add each ingredient to this drink, you would sort of take it and pour the stuff in a tall glass, right? But you could put it in a shaker, you can put it in a fancy glass.
I would do this. I would do this over ice.
Yeah.
I think that it benefits from being chilled. So I would do it over. I would either do it over ice in a in like a cocktail cup, you know, like a mixed glass. You could do it in a pint glass. We did them in like tall fancy glasses. Or do this into your shaker and then shake it and pour it out if you wanted to do it straight. So there's kind of two ways to serve this.
Also a martini glass or a champagne glass would work for this too.
Yeah.
So you've really got like tons of, a plastic solo cup. We're not going to judge. So as you add each ingredient, say aloud its name and purpose. So orange juice for joy and abundance, or, rose petals for friendship. Now, keep in mind, you can say this aloud either with your mouth or in your mind palace. So if you are not in a place where
just
you
hallucinated
can really
into
say
your
that.
space castle.
Yeah, so if you're not really in a place where you can like say this stuff out loud, just like think about it as you do it, while focusing on the intention of the thing. So to make this drink, you're going to pour 1 ounce of Saint Germain and 2 ounces of orange juice into a tall glass or into a shaker cup. You're going to fill that with ginger ale and then add liquor as desired to your strength that you want. Remember, the liquor is sort of like an optional thing. If you want this to be a little more virgin, you don't have to add that at all.
Yeah.
Saint Germain is a liquor, so this is not an entirely virgin drink. And then once you have poured everything in or shaken it and poured it in, you can now garnish with a sprig of rosemary and sprinkle crushed rose petals on top. It's a very pretty, very festive sort of looking drink. And an optional thing that you can do is you can also pair this with bread and salt. Bread is for abundance and salt is for protection. If you're going to somebody's party, you're trying to think of a hostess gift to bring or something like that, then you could bring that too.
Yeah.
Well, that was weird. That light just went out.
Yeah. Those batteries last so long, so I guess they wasn't fully charged. That's on me. It's okay. So now that we're in the shadow times,
the power went out at first, and I was like,
you were like, not like this.
I have to bake stuff in the oven.
That's fine. We're gonna bake it not in the oven.
Oh man. Okay.
So you know what? The light told us that it's time to be done, and if you're listening to this, then nothing has changed for you. And we're just crazy.
But for those of you who can't see this,
for those of you who are watching
half
us,
of our lights just
50% of the brightness in this house went down. We'll see what happens when I edit this video. So yeah, that was whatever this is.
Hidden heathenry and modern holidays.
Hidden heathenry in modern holidays. I knew we had a fancy way of saying that. I couldn't think of what it was. I've been drinking. It's Thanksgiving. I'm not driving anywhere. She is. So our next episode is our 1 year anniversary. Woo! So yeah, jazz hands. So that we're gonna host that Sunday, December 5th. So 12/5 at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And that's going to be a live stream.
Yeah, you have to do the math on that. I don't know how to do that for time wise, but so it's 4 p.m. PST, some nonsense EST.
Yeah.
So
yes,
definitely
we're gonna do a live
that.
stream Q&A. We would love to see you there.
Yep. Please find a space to attend. You can
and
submit questions ahead of time, or you could just jump into the live chat and submit those questions. So we're gonna live stream this on YouTube. So this is gonna be on our YouTube channel, which is Jive on YouTube. And then after we're done with it, we'll export it, and I'll somehow find a way to turn it into an actual sound thing. I don't know how to do any of this yet. So that's my project over the next not very many days. So
and then after the 1 year anniversary, we're going to be doing a Yule episode.
Yeah, so we'll have a Yule episode after that. But so yeah, definitely if you're not going to be able to make it on Sunday at 4 p.m., Sunday the 5th of December at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our live stream, you can submit the questions beforehand. If not, join us in the live stream. We're going to be hanging out. It's not going to be super it's not like we don't have like a set like schedule of how we're going to do it. It's just going to sort of be like a hangout, chill sort of time, you know?
Yeah, and if you've got a question that you want to ask, then you're not sure if you're going to be able to make it, definitely hit us up and
social media,
comment that question
website,
on
any of that.
This YouTube video.
Yep.
You can send us a message through our social media.
You can comment on any of the YouTube videos. Yeah. I see all the comments. I read all of them.
Yeah,
so
you can go to our website and shoot us an email through the contact us.
Yeah.
So,
so we
definitely want to hear from you.
We have
guys.
all that. We also, because it is Thanksgiving, we have a sale on our Etsy shop. So right now we're doing 20% off through December 3rd on our Etsy shop.
Yep.
So if you're looking at that, go get that stuff. It's cool looking. It's awesome. I enjoy making the stuff that we sell on our Etsy shop. So check that stuff out. Let me know what you think.
If you get something from the Etsy shop, shoot us a little note in your order and let us know that you're a listener, and we will include a little Horn and Cauldron podcast sticker. Yeah,
we'll throw in some podcast stickers for you just for being a fan.
Yeah.
And if you want the Book of Shadows page for this or any of our other episodes, join our Patreon. We have a Horn and Cauldron podcast tier for that. We also have a lower tier for just Nerd Jive fans if you just want to get that stuff, or and we have stakeholders tier for all them delicious steaks because of how steaky it is. And you get to hang out for our once a month barbecue hangout where we just chat on a Zoom call,
we just
whatever,
hang out for
Discord
a couple
chat,
hours.
and just hang out for a couple hours and talk whatever, and just sometimes we talk about the news. So those are always fun, and thank you to those who participate.
Yeah, we also have a Discord on our Patreon too that is pretty active, and we talk witchy stuff and also real life stuff.
More direct contact with us about that. But so either way, I have been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. Stay magical, folks.
Yeah, and don't forget, breathe in self-confidence, breathe out self-doubt.
Bam.